Coming up on this week's edition of the MCTV Weekday Update, find out why last week's freezing temperatures had some students giving the administration the cold shoulder.
And Matt takes a look at how the ice storm affected a local golf course.
Plus, the details of how some tech students are celebrating Black History Month.
From the College of Mass Communications on the campus of Texas Tech University, this is the MCTV Weekday Update.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of your MCTV Weekday Update. I'm Erin Gregg.
And I'm Matt Roberts. Tech students had to bundle up multiple times this semester due to Arctic conditions. Michael Sullivan has more on what goes into the decision to cancel classes or not.
As Lubbock and most of Texas has gone through some of the most brutal winter weather in recent memory, Texas Tech officials have had to delay classes 4 different times. Some students at Tech were unhappy that classes were not canceled, as very few in this part of the country are used to the Arctic conditions and sub-zero temperatures. Texas Tech Emergency Management Coordinator Ronald Phillips said there's a lot more than just looking outside the windows in the morning to determine whether or not to cancel or delay classes, and that many local agencies are involved in making that decision.
And we get that information from the National Weather Service. We also touch base with TxDOT on road conditions, Department of Public Safety. So all this information is gathered and then it's brought forward by the Chief of Police, and a recommendation is brought forward to the President.
Many Tech students ultimately disagreed with the decision that was made by University President Guy Bailey, and Darius Knox, a sophomore engineering major from Fort Worth, Texas, said by not canceling classes, many students' safety was put into jeopardy.
I didn't think it was the right call because it was so cold outside and so icy outside. I thought that it could make some of the students sick, because it was 1 degree on some of the days and the ground was really slippery and someone could have gotten injured.
Whether Tech canceled or delayed classes, Phillips said it's hard to keep nearly 30,000 people happy, especially when it comes to making decisions on class cancellations.
You're always going to get some complaints. There's always going to be an individual who, if you delay classes, they felt you should have canceled classes. And if you cancel classes, there will be an individual who felt you should not have canceled classes. So you're always going to have someone who doesn't agree with the decision that was made.
Whether or not Tech students agreed or disagreed with the decisions made, they could all agree that it's been a flat-out cold beginning to February. For MCTV, I'm Michael Sullivan.
The cold weather this month also affected local businesses, including some golf courses. Here's Matt with the details.
Over the past few weeks, Lubbock has experienced some extreme weather conditions. Many Lubbock area businesses were affected by the recent weather, but local golf courses were hit especially hard. Tony Taylor works in the pro shop at the Rawls course, and he said the weather presented a couple of different problems for them.
I do know that when we get those low temperatures, that extreme, it takes 10 days at least of 60-degree weather before the surface is not frozen below about 5 feet, I think.
But with freezing temperatures hitting the area, Taylor said the biggest problem was not necessarily limited to just the turf.
We had 10 days where we probably weren't open at all, at least. And of those 10, we had 54 rounds in 10 days out of a budget of 420. So we're going to have to really catch up the next 17, 20 days.
Last weekend, we got a chance to follow a few Texas Tech students as they played the Rawls course for the first time since the snow and ice hit. Following the students allowed us to see what the conditions were like for the average golfer. Despite a little wind and blowing dust, senior advertising major Taylor Tomlin was just ready to get out and play some golf.
It was fun. We had a good time. Had a couple golf shots, had a couple bad shots. Just fighting in the trenches out there.
Tomlin said he plays Rawls a lot, but the conditions after the freeze were more challenging than normal.
Yeah, I think it was. There's also ice on there's still ice on the lake, so I think it hardened the ground a little bit and everything. The grass was kind of dead, and made it a lot harder out there. The greens were a little bit tough too.
Keaton Ducey, a senior mechanical engineering major, played with Tomlin, and he found the most challenging part of the course was just how hard the ground was.
Well, everything's pretty much dead because of it, and just laid down flat, and the ground's really, really hard, so.
Despite some tough conditions, both Tomlin and Ducey said they enjoyed themselves and will return to Rawls in the future. With MCTV, I'm Matt Roberts.
Believe it or not, February is known for more than just cold weather. The second month of the year is also Black History Month. Landon Martin has more on how Tech students are celebrating.
Most students can recall learning about Black History Month, but the meaning is different to all. Texas Tech has several student organizations celebrating and reflecting on Black figures and historical events in a variety of ways. However, some students see that Black History Month is not only for the Black community.
It's important that the entire Tech community, be a part of something, because it's their history too, like whether you're white or Hispanic or Native American.
Student organizations, along with fraternities and sororities, are planning commemorative events that will allow students the opportunity to celebrate and learn.
Not step on each other's toes, because there's so many Black organizations and we only have 28 days, so we just like to keep things that we do annually. We like to keep that and let other organizations get a chance to showcase at Black History Month, and we'll just help them in whatever way we need to.
Kappa Alpha Psi, along with Delta Sigma Theta, will be hosting the legendary Legacy Black History program, and the National Society of Black Engineers is holding the NSBE date auction.
To me, Black History actually takes place every day, but Black History Month is just those 28 days to go back and reflect over the past. Like, what am I doing now that wasn't done in the past?
As part of the celebration, Byron is preparing to perform a rap at the annual Apollo Night put on by the BSA in the Human Science Building.
And finally, hit Club Gina did the Tangeray, and that's when she introduced me to this girl named E&J. She had a cousin named Remy Rowe with a grand crew.
Reporting for MCTV, I'm Landon Martin.
Tech's celebration of diversity doesn't end with Black History Month. Students have a unique opportunity to see the world without leaving Lubbock. The director of the International Talent Show, Julia Menini, says the goal of the show goes beyond recognizing international students on campus.
The goal is also not only to give a voice to the international students community, but also to share their culture with the American students.
The show featured music and dances from places like Sri Lanka, Nigeria, and Spain. And one international student said he was glad to share his culture with the Tech community.
It's a great contribution when people see my country, and it's something foreign to them, so I hope they enjoyed the show.
Athletes from around the world recently made their way to Lubbock to climb their way to the top of their sport. Here's Edmund Rostron with the details.
We have 5 minutes left.
Rock climbers from around the world flocked to the Outdoor Pursuit Center's 11th annual Vertical Plains rock climbing competition last weekend. The competition, held at the Student Recreation Center's 53-foot rock climbing wall, hosted more than 100 competitors. Director of Outdoor Programs Kurt Howell says the OPC has been preparing for the event since October. He says having such an experienced rock climbing staff helps with setting the routes and making the competition run smoothly.
Since it is our 11th year, we've kind of got a system in place, and it runs kind of like clockwork. And so the entire week, this past week, starting on last Friday, a week ago Friday, is when we take all the holds off the wall, all the tape and everything, clean it, and then we rebuild it in a way. And we have a lot of students, staff that work for the outdoor program, and a few other students on campus that are climbers that will volunteer to set routes for us.
Unlike many rock climbing events, the Vertical Plains competition is based on difficulty rather than speed or time. Howell says in order to judge the event each year, the staff comes to consensus on which routes are more difficult than others. Joshua Trick, who drove 7 hours to come to this year's competition, says he got into rock climbing the summer after high school. Trick, who is also a Tech alum, says he was excited when he came to Lubbock and saw the university had such a tall rock climbing wall.
The wall's tall enough that I can't plane it out all the way to the top, so I try and plane out the first 10 or 20 feet, just looking at, hey, this is going to be a big hold, this is going to be a small hold. And then after that, I basically start looking for the next big hold, like the next rest. And I'm kind of like, all right, all I got to do is think about how to get to there, and I can take my time and figure out the next part. So I try and breaking it down because looking at the whole thing's kind of daunting.
Those interested in learning more about rock climbing and how to participate at Tech should visit the Outdoor Pursuit Center located in the Rec. Reporting for MCTV, I'm Edmund Rostran.
That's it for today. Thanks for joining us at MCTV Weekday Update. I'm Erin Gregg.
And I'm Matt Roberts. Have a great week.